goodness.
Yay.
Wow. Julia, well done.
I did it.
You did it. You did it. You definitely did it. Ladies and gentlemen, Julia Geaman, thanks for coming to Drumeo.
Yeah, thanks. It's nice
Now
to be back.
Yeah, I was going to say, this isn't your first time. You were here about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And you killed it when you were here 4 years ago. In fact, one of your courses is one of our top few courses called Moving Around the Drums or Moving Around the Kit. And I don't know what you've been drinking since then, but you are on a whole new level.
Sweet, thanks.
So I'm super pumped to have you in the studio.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Julia is, make sure you check her out on social. What's your Instagram and all your tags?
Julia Geaman. That's it.
That's it?
Very creative.
It's not, it's Geaman.
Yeah.
So give her a follow. What was that song you just played?
That was Wretched Sounds by a band that I joined almost 2 years now. It's Nott, N-O-T-T.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so joined
Unreal.
that.
Yeah, check that band out and give some love to Julia and her music. So what are we talking about today?
Well, double kick, I guess. I think that I've been playing double kick for so long, I wanted to do something that's sort of close to me and makes a lot of sense. And I think basically just strengthening your double kick, not just by playing, but what you play on top as well, like with your hands. So hitting on balance and proper warm-ups and all that stuff.
Well, it's definitely worked for you. Your feet are unreal fast. The creativity you have in your playing is great. And just want to mention before we really get into the lesson, she's doing all this on a 24-inch bass drum. Like, who does that? When we were talking to her on the phone, I was like, yeah, we can use any of the kits you have here. It's like, actually, I want to bring my own.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, but you can save yourself the extra work. And you're like, no, I want to do it on a 24-inch kick. I couldn't believe it.
I bought this this year, so I was pretty excited about it.
So real brief, do you notice any difference with it? Was it harder than on a smaller kick? Yeah? Yeah,
I had to really adjust to it, and I think maybe the way that it's tuned kind of helps. Having a little bit of a couple pillows in there also helps. It is definitely spongier.
Yeah.
And I got used to, the 22. That's what I've been playing for years. It took a while, but I actually feel like it responds more just the way it's tuned. Maybe because it's a 14, skinny. I don't know if that makes a difference, but it sounds and feels really comfortable.
It sounds incredible. And so much respect to any drummer who could do that kind of stuff on a 24-inch bass drum. So
you were playing it earlier too.
It's not as easy. It's not as easy as a 22, not as easy as a 20. And the other thing I'll mention is you don't have any triggers as well.
No, but I'm not opposed to triggers. I'll play triggers sometimes, but yeah, I've been getting used to not doing it, which I think sounds really cool too.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I'm a double bass player myself. I know how hard it is to strengthen your double bass. I know how difficult that whole journey is. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to present to us today.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to go through something that's maybe intermediate. It's not super, super beginner.
Okay.
So I would kind of assume, or I would suggest that if you're completely new to double kick, this might not be the one to start with. I'll talk about a little bit of technique and some beginner stuff, but I do take it a little bit further, and I would really suggest that if a double kick is something that you just bought, maybe familiarize yourself with it first before getting into the stuff.
Good advice.
Yeah. It took me a while. I played double kick from when I first started playing drums, so
you started on
no
double
other
bass.
way, yeah. I had to learn how to play single kick and get used to playing with the hi-hat pedal.
Yeah.
So that was something that I learned afterwards. But yeah, this is what I wanted to play, so I learned how to do it this way. So there might be people that disagree as far as double kick technique, but this has worked for me, so I just figured to go through, go through that.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with the warm-up. I kind of put together this lesson as a mini practice session, the way I would tend to go through it. So I'll start with the warm-up. I'll talk about isolating muscles, and I'll do a little bit of a coordination exercise, and I'll end with power and stamina exercises.
Perfect.
Yeah, but so to start off, I'll just start with heel down. Naturally, I play heel up. You might have seen that in the intro track. I just play heel up all the time. But I do like to warm up my muscles that are here, my calf muscles and whatever this muscle is. So I play heel down to start, and it's also sort of an easier way to warm up. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not worrying about being creative or anything. I'm just thinking about being accurate and isolating those muscles. So I need my rudiment plat.
Yeah, sure.
Please, thank
There
you.
you go.
It's nice you have
And
it
before
there.
you get into that, just a reminder, everyone who's a Drumeo member, you can download the PDF. We have a 3-page PDF for you with all this information and exercises notated for you.
Yay, yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll start with heel down. So everything that I'm doing in this warm-up, it's, I think, this 3-bar exercise. I play single strokes on my feet, just like that, heel down. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to focus on relaxing my legs, so relaxing my hips. I don't want to use my hip flexor because that's a lot of energy. And if you're playing double kick and you're noticing that you're losing a lot of energy, you're probably working too hard. So relax your thighs, relax your hamstrings, and try to focus on just the ankle motion. So it'll look like this. You might feel some tension here, but it should feel pretty relaxed. You should feel like you can do it for a long time because you want to sort of activate those muscles. You might feel a little bit of strain here. I don't know if some of my students feel it and some don't. So if that muscle gets activated, that's pretty good. I like working that muscle. So I'm really relaxed. I'm just playing heel down singles. And you want to focus on the sound of your kicks, because if you sound like this, like, which is pretty common, you might not even notice you're doing it, but that's very obviously right side dominant. And you're actually going to get tired because you're probably overworking your right side.
Well, it's a good point you mentioned about not using triggers too, because if you have triggers, you might not be aware of that, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything gets sort of, sampled perfectly. So it sounds like you're playing dynamically the same. So yeah, just focus on that and just mix yourself, like bring your left foot up and bring your right foot down, and you actually might feel more comfortable. You might feel like you're not working so hard. So I'll just do that transition. I'll start sort of lopsided and I'll bring my left foot up. It almost feels like I'm accenting my left foot. If you're not used to it, it feels like you're accenting, but you're really just playing them at the same volume.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. If you don't have that down, don't even start with any of the stickings, because that's going to throw you off. Like, figure that out and make sure that you're comfortable and it all sounds the same. Once you have that, you can start to add some stickings on top. So I have 3 different patterns, like groupings of 2, groupings of 3, and then groupings of 4, like in the PDF. So I'm just doing 4 groups of 2, and then 4 groups of 3, and 4 groups of 4. But they're all 8th notes. I'm not changing the subdivision. So I'm playing 16th notes on my feet, 8th notes. Does this sound like math?
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm following. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just play it and we'll see how that sounds. So. Pretty simple.
Pretty simple. Now you're doing same subdivisions on both hands and feet in that one. Is that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'd start at that. If I start to play a little bit faster, or if I want my hands to be faster, I usually will line it up, but sometimes when I go a little bit faster, I'll change the subdivisions on top. But you can play. If you want to really slow it down and separate it, but I think I'm just used to playing at the same subdivision to get warmed up. And I think the reason why I like this is when you get to the groupings of 3, because you're playing 8th notes, it sort of is strange on the click, right? Like you'll feel pulse. Like if you're playing to a click, the pulse sort of shifts on that pattern.
Right.
And I think that that's really important for balance, is being able to shift where you feel the pulse in whatever you're doing. So I'll go through that at different tempos, and I'll sort of increase it as I go until I feel like I can't play heel down anymore.
Okay, so you're really pushing the duration there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this would take me maybe 15, 20 minutes, and I'll keep building it up. So by the time I play at a tempo where I'm not heel down anymore, I'm heel up. If I'm playing sort of like at that speed, like you can really start to lock it in. And the reason why the practice pad is so good is because it doesn't distract you, and you can hear what you're doing. You can hear if you're flamming or not.
And
right?
you can pay more attention to the balance of your feet too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you're paying attention to what your kit sounds like. Because if you play it on toms or anything, it's super easy to like flam, like, and not be aware of where those notes line up. So if you start here, you actually get the sense of what it feels like to play like unison hits, or just lining those notes up so that you're not flamming. So that's why I think the rudiment pad is really good to do that to begin with. So yeah, I just start off warming up like that.
And you start off with you said heels down just so you can activate those shin muscles.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, you were heel up, and that's totally cool. That's just the progress of it.
Yeah, and it's cool to do that with the metronome, because then you'll notice that where you need to actually go to your comfort position. Like if you play heel down, you might just stay heel down. But there's a certain level where I have to go to heel up, and I know that that's somewhere around 130 or 140 BPM. So if I need to do that by 120, I know that day is like, I feel a little bit sluggish or something. And if it's 150, then I know it's a good day, like my feet are feeling good and I have a lot of control. So it's nice to just know. That's why the metronome is great, because you can use it as a reference point to where you're at.
You said a really good point there too, having a good day. You know, it's a good day. I don't know if there's any drummers out there who sometimes you just have a bad day. And then you think it's because are you going backwards? Like, am I getting worse? But yeah, you have bad days every now and then, right?
Even yesterday I was running these songs and I'm like, I'm having a bad day. Like, I don't know if I'm going to play these songs tomorrow. And then today it's just, I got some good sleep, and I don't know, like, it's weird how some days it's not happening.
Yeah, fair enough. Been there myself.
Yeah, it never stops, I guess. It just keeps, happening.
So you got the warm up down. What do you do next then? Because you're going through your day of practicing double bass and strengthening
more or
double
less.
bass, more or less.
Yeah. So I activate those muscles. It's also just like a nice way to sort of meditate and feel, where you're at, warm up, like just get your heart rate up. So I'll start like that, and at that point I might start to get into some coordination exercise or some balance exercises. That way I'm still practicing something a little bit more specific, a little bit more precise, but I'm still using my double kick.
Okay.
So I think that's when I'll start getting into the exercises that I have written out. So I'll just, thank you.
There you go.
Snare back on. So I'll be at heel up at this point, and I think stopping and starting is something that's kind of difficult for double kick, especially at certain tempos. So I wrote out this whole exercise to sort of hit all the different positions you can start the kick, on the downbeat, on the upbeat, on the E's and the U's, and I keep my feet sort of planted in like one E enda is right, left, right, left. So if I start on the E, I start with my left foot. If I start on the end, I start with my right foot. So that's always like in position.
Okay.
I find that easier to be sort of square and sound proper, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know what the right word is, but maybe I can just start going through them.
Yeah, explain it. So we're on the building balance exercises. I think it says exercise 1A.
Yeah, the second PDF, the balance exercises. Yeah, so this one I sort of shift where I start the double kick. I'll start it on 2, and then I'll start it on 1 and 3, and I'll just shift it over. So the first example, I'm just playing a quarter note on 1, and then 16th notes for 2, 3, and 4. Let me explain the hands first, because I'm cycling through a specific pattern on my hands. I'm just going from the right side to the left, to the right, and then to the left.
Okay.
So I'm essentially just doing this. Pretty simple. You can change that. That idea is just a sort of a system. Like you can adapt that and change it. You can play the snare on 3, so instead of 1, you can play. Just one idea to shift it over, but I'll play it with the bass drum. Pretty simple.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just you're moving it around like this, and your kicks need to be lined up the whole time. So you're really paying attention to your balance because you're shifting over. But more importantly, I'm going to shift the bass, and I'm going to start to put that quarter note rest in a different spot.
Okay.
So the first one, I'm playing a bass, but for the second one, I'm not playing any bass on the 2. I'm just leaving that open. So I start off with. As opposed to playing a bass with the snare,
Right.
just leave the bass out.
Okay.
I think that really helps to like train your ear. You're listening for that last left foot on the It makes it a lot more crisp.
Brilliant.
I
Okay.
think so. I don't
So
know.
let's see
My
that one.
opinion.
Let's see that one a little faster.
Yeah, okay. So it's like, instead of, which I think, I don't know, whatever, it's small details, but I think it sounds better.
Love it.
Yeah. So the third one, I shift over the rest to the 3. So. And then, obviously, the last one is on the 4. So,
very cool.
Yeah, those are like the individual exercises. And I think I mentioned it before in the other courses that I film. Like, each individual exercise is good to practice, but the last thing I always suggest to my students is, can you run all of them in a row? Like, can you transition?
Like in sequence.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, like, can you transition? So either transition from the first one to each of the other ones, or just as a loop. So I'll quickly run the cycle, like all 4 of them.
Yeah.
And you can kind of hear what that sounds like. So. Just play around with that.
Yeah.
And make sure you can like transition and feel comfortable no matter where you're starting on the kick.
So this is like a go-to that you do quite often. Is it something that you like have a BPM tempo that you shoot for? Like, how should the students approach this?
So if you have the exercise itself, I would do each one individually, then run through the cycle. But a lot of times I come up with exercises because there's a part in a song that I want to learn, and I've found that for some reason it's difficult. So I'll take that idea and I'll turn that into an exercise.
Brilliant.
And then you know sort of your goal tempo, because the song is at a certain tempo.
Yeah.
And then you can use that to sort of create your own little exercise.
Yeah.
And run through it. And you might even discover, well, I always have an issue starting with my left foot. And then you have an idea. Every time I start on the E, for example, if you notice you're doing that, I have issues with it. So then you can just zoom in and do just that. Like, that's a problem. You found a little thing that you can improve yourself on. So that's always a good thing. Like I always use songs or songs I'm either writing or songs that I'm learning. I just take ideas from that. Like I don't necessarily just come up with exercises. It's usually like song-based.
Which is great because it's application, right?
Yeah.
Because it solves something right away. And all of the side benefits of doing these exercises increases your strength, increases your coordination, speed, endurance, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think you might be more motivated. Like you have a reason now. You have like a purpose.
Yeah.
Like this is for this song or for this type of skill, rather than, reading any sort of book and being like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like,
The why is the huge one, hey?
Yeah.
You tell students to practice this, but unless they have a good reason.
because I said so.
Yeah, then my teacher told me to do these. You know?
Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah.
so let's move on to the number 2.
Okay.
Similar idea?
Yeah, so it's the same thing, but this time I'm starting on the 16th notes.
Okay.
So first bar is just 16th notes all the way through to kind of just get you into it. And then I start the bass on the E, then the and then the So again, the E will be with the left foot, the and is the right foot, and then the is the left foot again. So I'll just start with B because 2A is just 16th notes.
Okay.
So this one's on the E. Right, so you can even think of it without the crashes there, like one, or if that doesn't sound good, then all the other stuff isn't going to sound good. So like,
Totally.
yeah, zoom
well
in.
said, yeah. Just
yeah.
listen, isolate your bass drum.
Yeah, can you do it without your hands?
And was this one of the exercises that you were trying to strengthen that starting on your left foot with?
This is, one of the things that I would do. I noticed that I didn't know what starting on the E sounded like, and I would always start with my right foot, so it always ended up being something like this, like. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't know what was wrong. Like I thought I was starting at the right time, but because I was starting with my right foot, it shifted everything over. So it was really, like it took me a while to even realize what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So it's okay to like zoom in and find a problem. Like you actually, I think that's a good thing to find those little issues.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So
C,
and then so I'll do the and the So. That was the and then the and then I'll do all of them together. You can hear it. It sounds crisp. Like you know that you're doing it in that specific time. Obviously, with the click, it's even better.
Yeah.
Like I'm not being
It
a good
sounds great.
teacher without.
There's no click. There's no click. But it sounds
Yeah.
great. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, no worries. So I'll do all 4 in a cycle. So I'll do them maybe a couple times each.
Sure.
Like the right lead got me. So yeah, like I'll zoom into that. It's like, okay, that one's not as crisp as the other ones because I worked on my left foot for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to try that one more time, but
yeah.
a little bit faster maybe?
Oh yeah, sure.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah, and it's like simple. It doesn't have to be necessarily like a creative thing, but it leads into you playing around, and you can sort of create your own ideas or make mistakes and see if you know what you're doing, because you can kind of create your own rhythms that way.
Yeah, you can almost hear riffs in your head when you start
Yeah.
playing those patterns. Like, oh, that'd be so cool if I had a guitarist there with me.
Yeah, or if you hear a riff in your head, or if you've heard a riff from a song that you like, or a band member is playing a riff, all of a sudden you have a connection with your feet where you can hear what they're doing if they're playing sort of like something percussive. And you'll be able to line up your feet to it rather than like struggling to line up. Like maybe it's, you can kind of sing it in your head, but you don't know how to connect that to your feet.
Totally.
So, I mean, those are all, in the 16th note pattern, those are all the different possibilities. You can go further, and you can play all the 16th notes, like starting in the full bar, like 16 different positions. But I think you get the idea with just the beat.
Cool.
Yeah, so I put together a few examples. I'll read these ones, because I just put together random patterns, and I also left some spaces for anyone to just come up with their own exercises if you have the PDF.
Yeah, you get the opportunity to create, like you just said. If you find a riff, it's like we have some provided sheet music with the backbeat pattern over top of it that you can write in your own double bass parts, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. So I'll just play some of these examples. These are 2-bar patterns.
Okay.
Like that. If you don't want to move around to the right and the left, you can alternate between just 2 cymbals, like. That can sort of lead into more ideas for you, and you can come up with some really cool stuff, I think.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what's next on your list of things that you practice for strengthening your double bass?
On my list, just playing faster.
Ramping up the speed.
Yeah. I mean, also just being more consistent. I think moving my comfort zone up. So not necessarily playing faster, but being able to be comfortable at a wider range. So like when I first started, I remember not being able to play 140. And that was like a benchmark for me. Like if I can play 16th notes at 140, I'll be super happy.
Yeah.
And now that's like usually where I'll start to warm up, maybe around 130 or 140. So I can play that cold. So I kind of want to, be comfortable at a wider range.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of time. And I think knowing how to isolate your muscles, like I was saying in the beginning, don't work so hard. Like don't use your big full leg, because you're going to get tired super quick. So I think if you learn how to strengthen your small muscles and also have more stamina in your larger muscles, you sort of meet in the middle, and you can play fast with power. So that's really what I'm constantly just pushing my ability to do that.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and being more creative and comfortable, not just playing double kick, but we'll not talk about that now.
That's a lesson for another time.
Yeah.
So you have a really cool exercise here on moving the backbeat. Do you want to set that one up, explain what the importance is, and run us through it?
Yeah, so again, the kicks are all consistent for this one, but I put this together because I felt like these were the 4 main sort of rhythms or simplified rhythms that I usually go through.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be comfortable playing. There's songs where I'll transition into this beat or into any one of these beats, and I would just lose track of where I was. So I went through each one of these ones sort of individually. Maybe I'll play the whole cycle and explain each one separately.
Very cool.
Yeah, like straightforward, very square playing, but I know that they all sort of have names, but I don't really think about the specific names that they have. I think of, I wrote them out as 16th notes, so the first one is backbeat on the and, so sort of on the upbeat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then on the downbeat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and ride is doing the same thing all the time. And then I guess like a hammer blast, 1, 2, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then singles like 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. That one I find is the hardest one to line up because you're playing just unisons.
Yeah.
I'll play it one more time. I'll go through each one, sort of slower and then faster. And I like to sort of add accents to the ride while I'm doing that too, sometimes.
Do it like 2 or 3 times. That's
Okay,
great.
sweet.
And I love how easy it is to transition back to it. Whenever I was trying to do exercises similar to this, it was always hard to go back, especially if you're doing in unison or singles. But this one flows really well. So yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So yeah, I'll do it slow a few times and then I'll speed it up.
Cool. How often do you do that? Like, be honest, like, is it like something you're doing every other day, every day? Is it something you do before a session?
At this point with what I practice is like very specific, like I'm going into the studio, so I'm practicing these songs.
Yeah.
But I do the same thing, it's the same process. Like, I know I have an issue with this fill in the song or this beat. A lot of times it's beats like that, like into a fill or into something else. So I'll do the same thing I did with these beats, but I'll do the same process, but with a different rhythm maybe. But these rhythms come up, it's just a different transition, a fill before this or a fill after that. So it's very specific now, whereas before I think I was just running to feel balance and to gain speed, so I wanted to simplify everything.
Yeah.
I think now it's a little bit more specific towards like songs that I'm learning.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about power and stamina, because obviously you have a lot of power. You're able to do these for a long time, but how do you build that?
Oh man, yeah, a lot of practice, I guess. I think a lot of my power or stamina has come from just gaining proper technique. I realized I was working way too hard. Like I was pushing too hard. I was trying to play speeds using sort of my larger muscles. It's the same thing as hand control or hand technique. Like if you're trying to play blasts with your full arm, you're gonna get super tired. But if you get a little bit of technique, I don't feel like I'm using that much energy when I use smaller muscles. So I think it's playing heel down has really helped me. So going through any of these patterns heel down, I add stickings on top of it to make it a little bit more interesting and to help me learn how to not flam. But it's really like building those small muscles that has helped me play. Because even when I play heel up, I still am using ankle motion. Like maybe you can see on the camera, but instead of playing like this, which is like full leg, I'm pushing down with my toe a little bit more, so I'm using both my leg and my ankle. But I couldn't do that until I isolated my muscles. So I did heel down only for a while whenever I warm up.
It's a great tip for strengthening your ankle, because I know a lot of drummers, they just go right to heel up, and I think that's why a lot of them have troubles if they're trying to get into like slide technique or heel toe technique, because you got to have your ankle and toes working for you.
Yeah, there's so many different, and I think there's so many different opinions of it, and certain drummers might not play heel down at all because they don't want to get into the habit of playing that. Like when you get into like the double kick metal sort of world, there's so many opinions, and that's why I always disclaim like this has worked for me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully it'll work for you too. But I've really seen an improvement by doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
What about like endurance? Do you have any like tips for building that endurance?
Yeah, I don't know any other way other than doing stamina runs.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah.
I don't know how you would build stamina without actually breaking a sweat and like running. So I think there's ways that you can make it more enjoyable, and you kind of have to get out of your head as to how long it might take and figure out a way that you can enjoy it. The way that I do it best is I just time myself, and I have a little challenge that I'll show some of my students, and I do myself because it's very condensed. So it's just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 challenge, where I time myself out for 5 minutes playing a super easy tempo, which is a bit maybe boring, but you can do stickings on top, you can think about other things, you can
And it's only 5
watch.
minutes.
It's
right?
only 5 minutes.
It's only 5
like you were
minutes.
saying, like you can watch hockey while you do it.
Yeah, I
or-
like hockey. Put on a sports show and do whatever, right?
yeah. I don't like sports, so that doesn't work for me. But I'll
Friends.
just do Friends. Yeah.
Is that
there's-
show still popular? I don't know. I'm way out of my league here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go back to continue where you were.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll do 5 minutes at an easy speed, 4 minutes at slightly faster. So I'll go up by 5 beats or 10 beats per minute, and then 3 minutes even faster. 2 minutes, I'll be starting to sweat, and it's painful at that point, depending on the speed. And then 1 minute, really pushing my speed. And I adjust that every day. Like I'll realize that I was tired by the time I got to the 3rd minute. So let me start slower. Or it was way too easy and I could do it no problem. So you just adjust the tempo. But altogether, it's only 15 minutes.
Okay, that's
right?
not bad.
Like
yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It just adds up to 15 minutes. And if you can get that in your mind, like, okay, I'm just going to do 50-minute practice after I warm up or at the end of my practice, before I jam, whatever it is, it doesn't have to necessarily sound perfect. As long as you're doing it consistently, those muscles are going to build up, right? Like just like going to the gym, the first few times doesn't feel like anything, and then you start to feel strong. That is when I get really excited, is when I notice that I can play and it sounds stronger, it sounds clearer, it's easier.
Perfect.
That's when you get motivated.
Yeah.
Right?
When you start seeing those. Now, do you track your progress when you're doing it? Like you put your tempo down for 5 minutes. I can do it this tempo, or like, do you do any of that, or do you recommend
I
it?
used to. I always suggest that to my students. I do this often enough that I just remember. Like I know where I am. I know where my top speed is or whatever. So I know this. It's usually the same place every time. But for my students, I really do suggest that they do that, especially in the beginning, just to get into it. But I think you were even mentioning you guys do that with the single strokes. Like
Yeah, we have a single stroke roll challenge. But ours is only 10 minutes. I love that you added a 5 minute to it. It rounds it out to 15. And I think we're going to have to change that in Drumeo, because why not get an extra 5 minutes in? And the longer ones are the hardest. The bursts, you know, 1 minute you're done. But the 5 minute one, show us a real quick example of what you would do over that 5 minute. Now, you don't have to do the 5 minute, but just an example of what you're doing for endurance practice.
Yeah, so I would play the way that I naturally play, which is just heel up. I wouldn't necessarily do stamina runs playing, you know, heel down or any other technique. So I will start off with just my feet, and I will play around. So I'll sort of randomly play different notes, different beats. But I'll just show you. I'll just start playing.
Yeah.
So let's say around.
Might as well, right?
Yeah. If I'm just doing double kick, like honestly, I a lot of times I'm doing that for 5 minutes because I can feel if I'm off time, I can play to a click and also sort of
Multitask.
be distracted.
You can surf TikTok while you're doing double bass, right?
I've avoided TikTok and.
Good for you.
But no.
By the way, good for
but
you.
I'm just like on Instagram instead. But whatever.
Choose your poison.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, like I'll just do that because I know that 5 minutes can be a long time. I know guys that do it for 10 minutes, or you can get into just like playing beats, like. Playing around.
Yeah.
It's really like almost lazy, but the only thing I'm paying attention to is my feet. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
We're running low on time.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to wrap up here soon. We do have some really good questions. So what I think we'll do is play us out with a cool song.
Okay.
And then we'll go a little bit longer. Just wanted to ask some of the students questions that they have here. If you are a Drumeo member, get your questions in now, although I already see quite a bit of it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, what are you doing? Come on to Drumeo, where we answer your questions. You can go to drumeo.com/trial to give it a shot for free. But before we get into the song, any last minute tips for this?
Yeah, don't compare yourself to anybody. Just compare yourself to where you were like last year or last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people get stuck on a number, like a BPM or something, if you're playing metal and it doesn't make any sense. So,
compare yourself only to yourself.
Yeah, just be kind to yourself.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, and here you guys on the PDF, you got the workout or the warm-up, that you went through, the exercises for developing just coordination, power, moving the backbeat, and the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 challenge, which I freaking love, and I wish I had thought of that. So, lots to practice. Now, what song are you going to play us out with?
I'm going to end with Carbon Lens by Nott as well, also same band.
Awesome. All right. Well, for those watching on YouTube, we'll see you later after the show. For everyone else, we'll do some questions afterwards. And thanks so much, Julia.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Wee.
Woohoo! Wow! Congratulations. That
Yeah,
was awesome.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. Now, for all still watching stream, we're going to go through some questions because we had a lot of people asking questions, and we usually don't have time for this, but I couldn't ignore it.
Okay.
I had to ask these questions. So you might be watching on YouTube still, but I'm getting these questions from the actual members of Drumeo. So take a drink, take a breath. That was pretty intense. Thank you again. And let me know when you're ready.
Yep. Go.
Yeah? Okay.
I'm ready.
Question from Dan T asks, say, how do you decide on throne height? Because this is all about double bass, and that's probably one you've talked about quite a bit
Yeah.
with your students. He mentions distance from the kick drum and also distance from the pedals. Sitting wide-legged is comfortable, but it pushes my hi-hats out to the left, and I feel your pain. Julie, what do you recommend?
Oh, wide as in his pedals are wide out like this?
Yeah, he's going through the gamut. That and distance from the kick to the kick drum to the throne, and also, yeah, basically.
Yeah, so I have been slightly changing that over the years. I feel like the most comfortable position height-wise is my hips above my knees. I don't feel like I have any power, or I don't feel like I can play really well if I'm sitting sort of like parallel, like same height like that. There's just no power. I like to sit up a little bit and a little bit forward. I think it changes with your own body. Like if you're sitting wide, maybe you have really like long legs and long arms. Like I don't, so I feel like I overextend if I'm sitting too far away.
Yeah.
So I sit higher and closer because I feel comfortable. I feel like I'm not working so hard. So if I have a crash or anything that's too far, or the bell is too far, I just set it up sometimes a little bit too far. I feel that, like I don't like overextending.
Yeah.
So I like everything kind of close. And then you have to sort of, like I still feel like the hi-hat gets in my way sometimes. So that is a thing that I am also sort of working on, because I want it a little bit lower, but if it's too low, then it gets in the way of my snare. So it's a constant struggle, but generally I like to be kind of a little bit higher, a little bit closer, and I sort of sit wherever I'm comfortable, and wherever my feet land, that's where I put my pedals. So wherever you, like if you just sit down and just feel sort of comfortable and you put your feet out, that's where I would like draw and put my pedals there, instead of
trying to fit your feet on the pedals, you try to fit your pedals on the feet type of thing.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
kind of set up to yourself. And I think if you generally feel comfortable with your height, you'll make small like adjustments as you go, and you'll learn. Like I can't ever tell anybody how to set up for themselves. They have to make the drums sort of fit themselves.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of experimenting, but I think the most important thing is, for me, is to not sit below my knee.
Yeah.
Sit like high and a little bit closer to the bass. That's what works for me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Trial and error, Dan, but I feel your pain,
Yeah.
especially, have you ever tried to kit with two bass drums? I'm sure you played two
Yeah.
bass drums before. That's even harder with placement. Your hi-hats are way over to the side.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah.
You kind of have like, you need a two-legged hi-hat stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish there was like maybe hydraulic hi-hat that can just be put anywhere. You don't have to worry about the pedals. I don't know, but yeah.
Remote hi-hats, or whatever they're called. Hydraulic hi-hats, yeah. One more question from Dan. Actually, Dan's got 3 here, so I'm going to go with one. Christy, can you throw a side angle shot? Because he wants to see, probably the other one, so he can see your leg to the throne. Dan's saying, can we get a side shot of Julia to see her leg angle from the throne to the pedal while playing double bass? We're getting there.
What is he asking? Like how?
So just play double bass, and he's wanting to see the angle and the motion from your hip flexor down to your.
Sorry. You good?
Yeah, that should work. Perfect. I think that gives you a good idea. You can see kind of the height of the throne. You can see, I know the tom was in the way, but if you look between the tom, you can also see the ankle. So hopefully that helped you, Dan. And in post, we'll try to get an angle up there, because that is a great question. Last one from Dan T. Does your foot position on the bass pedal change when you switch to the hi-hat pedal?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned in the course, like, playing with the hi-hat pedal was something I learned later. So it was something I didn't even think about. It was just like I set it to slightly open, and that's just where it stayed. But yeah, it does change, and that's one thing that I actually am trying to work on, is because where I like the hi-hat as far as where I play it, I don't necessarily like the foot position. I feel like it's a little bit too close.
Yeah.
So that's a fight that I'm having, where I want the pedal a little bit further from my leg, but I don't like where it sits for my hands. But yeah, generally I just put it where I like it, for my hands, and it is slightly closer, but sometimes I do actually open the hi-hat and I'll play around with it, especially if I'm playing out here on the ride or anything. And it works. It's a fine position, but it does feel a little bit more comfortable when it's slightly further out.
That's a great answer, because it shows that even, someone like Julia is still working through it,
Oh, yeah.
Trying to fine tune and get comfortable with your positioning of things. Yeah. Here's a great question from Chili Glow. It says, hey, did I spot ankle weights? That seems to be popular. Would it be a benefit to use these sooner or later?
I'm not wearing any.
Ankle weights, no.
No, there was a period where I too bought the Gene Hoglan DVD, and I also got some leg weights, and I did that for a while. Maybe it helped. There was a period where I did that quite often, and I feel like it maybe strengthened a little bit, but once I stopped doing it, I feel like that benefit went away. I don't knock it, but I generally don't do that anymore. There was a period where I definitely used it.
Do you find it helped?
I don't know. Like, I felt like it made me really tired.
Yeah, I've tried them, but I've never actually used them enough to really notice if there was a difference or not.
Yeah.
And when Gene Hoglan came, he did the whole lesson and his course using them.
Yeah.
I told him, like, aren't you supposed to use those to strengthen and then perform with them off? But he was just so used to them that...
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think I would play differently with them on. Like, I felt like I was using more of my leg.
Yeah.
And I feel like if he plays with them, it's almost like he's used to the way that they feel, and that's how he plays. He plays with them, and it might give him a little bit extra... I don't know, like a little extra power on the kicks, or just the way that it feels. It's like playing with heavier sticks can feel better because you're getting more of a crack out of the snare. And then you switch to skinny sticks and you're like, oh, this doesn't feel as powerful.
Yeah.
So maybe they're great to play, not just for training, but just to have like playing with bigger sticks or something.
That's actually not a bad way to think about it.
I don't know.
I'm always on the mindset of practice with the stuff you're going to use on the gig.
Yeah.
So it's comfortable and it's familiar, right? But you raise a good point. You can get a lot more power from it. And if you're used to that ankle weight, I don't know. Give it a try, Chili Glow, and hey, let us know. And if anyone else is there, leave a comment below. Do you use ankle weights? Do you find them helpful? We should do a test subject.
Okay.
2 drummers practicing, maybe like 2 weeks, and one using ankle weights and one not.
Oh, yeah. That would be.
That's something we got to do.
Intense.
Okay, write that note down, whoever's listening, because that's brilliant.
Drummer against drummer.
Or it's exactly. Yeah. Okay, one last one here, and then we'll wrap. For faster speeds, this is from Chili Glow one more time. Are you using ankle only, or what are your tips for working into this? I seem to use a lot of leg for my playing.
Yeah, and I wonder if he's also like sitting lower, or.
Ooh, good point.
If he plays heel up or heel down. So I like to practice, like I was mentioning before, heel down. So I'll do that for quite a while, and I really feel it in this shin muscle here. And when I go to heel up, I can still feel that muscle, but it's easy to not use that muscle when I go to heel up and just rely on my hip flexors. So I'm really focusing when I'm playing heel up to still use my ankle, or else I end up just relying on the muscles that I'm used to using.
Yeah.
And it's also just good to be able to play like I'll play really quickly with ankle. If you're, let's say, playing that speed and your ankles get tired or your calves get tired, I'll switch between, like I'll do a little swivel or I'll do ankle motion or whatever, just to, you know, give those muscles a break. So,
Yeah, like alleviates the tension a little bit.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think maybe that's not necessarily like the highest level that you can be at. You want to be able to play cleanly, because it does sort of change the way it sounds, but it gets you through it. And if you have the strength in more sets of muscles, I guess it's better. I think.
He said heel up and knees lower than the hips. Well, your knees lower than the hips is probably the problem, or lower than your hips. No,
no,
that's
knees
good.
lower than hips. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's good. Then you're doing it right. So there you
and
go. Those tips will
heel
work.
up, he said.
Heel up
Yeah.
and knees lower than the hips.
Yeah, so same as me. So yeah, I play heel down to get those, isolate those muscles and build that up. But it's also, I've done lots of stamina runs, and I feel like I don't notice a difference until I'm playing something for at least 3 minutes. That's usually the time where I feel like I settle. So I'll be sort of playing and it feels like I want to stop because I'm tired, and then all of a sudden everything becomes really calm and I relax.
Yeah.
So it takes quite a few minutes to get into that point where you almost are like playing in the pocket or something. Like there's something that sort of settles and you relax, and it feels like the kicks are bouncing back at you. You don't feel like you're digging into the bass. They're just
Right.
coming back at you, and you're like, oh, this is actually easier.
It's like you're dribbling a ball,
Yeah,
but with your feet.
yeah,
So kicking the ball.
yeah.
Very cool.
But you know that it also changes depending on how much stuffing is in his bass or how tight he has his skin, because that will totally change the way that I play.
It's really hard to like troubleshoot with
Yeah.
questions like that because it's so,
So
personal.
many, yeah,
And what works for Julie might not work for you, Dan, or sorry, Chili, but hopefully that helps you.
it's a good name too.
It's a great name, eh?
Chili Glow.
Well, Julia, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Absolutely killed it.
Yeah,
And
that was a lot of fun.
for those who are Drumeo members, we filmed the course with her today, which is almost like a sequel to Moving Around the Drums. It was really cool. A lot of double bass in there. So you're in for a freaking treat. And can I be cheeky?
Okay.
You have another song that you just slayed before this live lesson.
Oh, cool.
Do you want to play that? Is
Oh, crap. Okay, well,
You don't have to if you don't want. That's totally cool.
I will give it a try. I feel pretty good. I might blow it though.
That's
So.
the fun and beauty of live.
Yeah.
But before this lesson, the song blew me away because at one point you're playing 16th notes with one hand on the ride cymbal at like, what is it, 125 BPM?
Yeah.
So that's like 250 BPM with singles. It's just so fast. So yeah, you're in for a treat. Christy, do you have that song loaded, or Josh? Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. Julia, thank you again
Yeah,
so
thanks.
much.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bye.
Bye. You.